welcome very much. Not only is it International Women's Day today, it is also British Science Week, so there's a lot to celebrate in the world of STEM. So thank you very much for joining us for this. I think the easy thing to do with is first of all, if you just give us your name, your job title and the company that you work for, and then after that we'll just do little presentations to find out a little bit more about you. So Catriona, can we start with you? Who are you and what do you do and who do you work for?
Yes, good afternoon everyone. My name is Catriona McGill. My job title is Head of Operations and I work for a startup called Desolenator. And Desolenator is looking at solar powered desalination, which is where you take seawater and you take the salts out and you turn it into drinking water. And we're doing that process powered by sunshine.
Okay. And something very, very different to that, Sheana, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So hi, I'm Sheana. I'm the founder and CEO of Aergo, and we make a posture support seating system for young wheelchair users who are born with neuromuscular conditions. So our technology basically corrects their posture in real time using air and keeping them comfortable, well supported, so they can be more independent. Very different, but love what you do, Catriona.
Yes, so some two very interesting areas of engineering manufacturing. So let's find out a little bit more in detail about your career story. So Catriona, can you share a bit from your piece?
I'd love to. So I'll start from school. So at school, I picked really general different GCSE topics because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. And then same into A levels. I knew I quite enjoyed maths and physics and the sciences. I also quite like languages. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school, so I tried to keep it as broad as possible. And so I picked maths and physics and French. And then when I came to pick, I knew I wanted to go to university. When I came to pick a university topic, I felt like engineering was the application of maths and science in the real world. And that's, I knew I was good at maths and science and I enjoyed them, but I felt like the pure science is too abstract and I like to see them applied in real world scenarios. So I picked general engineering about a month before the UCAS deadline, submitted my, so it was pretty late, but I submitted my applications and I got a place on a general engineering course. So what that meant was that I studied all the different types of engineering for the first 2 years, and then in my third and fourth year I specialised. So first and second years I studied a bit of structural, which is how you design a building to withstand rain and wind. Then there's kind of thermodynamics and fluid dynamics, so how stuff travels through pipes and engines. A bit of electrical, how do you design a radio or power transmission cables, and a bit of all of that. And actually none of them really stood out to me, and I all found them quite difficult. And there was an option on my course that was called manufacturing engineering. Didn't know anything about it, but just thought it sounded quite good. And it was what my best friend was going to study as well, so we would be in luck just together. So I picked that one, not knowing anything about it, and I ended up absolutely loving it. So so on the manufacturing course, we covered stuff like, so how do you design a factory? So, how do you set up, your loading bays, or like where the material comes in, then the stuff that you do to it, and then how does it leave the factory, and how do you design it all and set it up so it's really efficient? And then there's the flip side is of, whatever the product that you want to manufacture, how do you design that such that it's really easily made in a factory? You know, so if you design a product without the manufacturing mindset, you might have all sorts of kind of fancy, intricate things which actually just you don't really need, and then make it really hard to fabricate. And how do you design something that can be made really easily? So I actually really loved that. And there also, we covered a bunch of modules around the stuff about bringing a product to market, a bit about managing people, managing teams, HR and accounting, and a bit about sort of, it's perfect for working at a startup basically. So then I left university, and I actually wanted to be close to my friends and family. So I just found a job in London, which was actually in miles away from engineering, was actually in business consulting. And I did that for a few years, and I started to really miss my engineering roots. And then I saw my current company, Desolenator, advertising what was an internship. And so I decided to take that big leap and became an intern again in my mid-20s, which was, it was quite a big decision at the time. And that was about 5 years ago. And now we've come a long way. So when I joined the company, we were about maybe four full-time and one part-time person. And now we're about 25, and we're just building our first full-scale pilot plant. So we have a nice, in Dubai, so we've got this big array of solar panels powering a desalination process.
Okay, that sounds like a very interesting journey. So hopefully there'll be some nice questions from that. Okay, so Sheana, what about your career story? Was there any similarities there, or do you have a completely different story to tell?
Probably a little different. I'm not from the UK. Oh, I wish I was. But I came a long way here to study engineering. So I did prepare a few slides, because what I've done a lot is very visual. So I'm going to share my screen now, and it'll be a short presentation about what I do. Can everyone see that all right?
We can, yes.
Great. So yeah, again, I'm Sheana. My background is actually in product design, and then I did mechanical engineering, and now I founded my first business called Ero Health. When I was studying in the UK, I went to Royal College of Art and Imperial, and it's a program called Global Innovation Design, where we spent part of our course in New York, and then London, and then Tokyo. But the whole point is really to gain a global perspective of what innovation is in terms of tackling global problems. So it was a really interesting international program that got me into design engineering. And one of the things that I was always focused on as a designer was problem solving with human-centered design. So it's like volunteering hospitals, working in a corner shop to prevent shoplifting behaviors, but it's all about putting yourself in your user's shoes and really understand what is the problem they're experiencing, and how can you come up with a novel solution to come up with a great solution to solve that problem. And as an engineer, it's a very different perspective, where it's all about making that idea come to life. So one thing we have to do a lot is programming, building things. So on the right, you see here, it's like it's a life scale ice rower, which we built for the Winter Paralympics. And it's one thing about being an engineer as a designer is that you can see your idea come to life, and that's something that's really exciting, and then how people interact with it. But then after doing all the great projects that I was very fortunate to be part of, it's like, what happens next? Like, you have this great ideas that you spend so much time in, and how can we really take this further and put this in users' hands so then they can have it every day to really solve their problems? So that's when the idea of like, I want to consider starting a business start to grow within my head. So this is the starting point of Aergo, where we start to work with Chaleurs. It's a special needs school, which their mission is to empower young wheelchair users to gain the skill they need to be independent and be part of the society in terms of getting a job, going to a general university. And I was really, really inspired by that mission that they had. One thing I was talking to a lot of the students there, and then talking to the physiotherapists as well as the teachers. And one thing that really stuck with me is that they struggle a lot with posture. So a lot of young wheelchair users struggle with posture because they don't necessarily have the muscles to keep them sit upright. It's something that's very simple for us, but then not for them. It's a daily struggle, and every 15 minutes they have to be corrected, which I felt was a very cumbersome process and does deter them from being independent. And personally, when I was a child, I had a huge accident. So I started to develop scoliosis, which curvature of the spine, and really understand the clinical impact it would have long term. It's that, yeah, it's our posture is so critical to have a healthy respiration, digestion, also be independent. And then looking at equipments in the market, it's like, oh, but the children, they're getting these like very big fixed mechanical structures to fix them in a position, which I felt could be done better. So that's my problem solving aspect coming back again. And then understanding the market, it's actually very expensive for parents to be spending so much money on equipment, and they might not even work. So I went back to the drawing board. I worked with students, teachers, clinicians, and then build prototypes where they like interact and get their feedback on how to make it better. So we did arrive to a point where we have this working prototype, which is great. So I then take it to in front of investors who had the money just to back young businesses, but then it's like they're trying to back up, they're being pitched to by a lot of companies. Then how can you stand out as a founder? And I think our social mission to empower young wheelchair users really gravitated them. And so we received funding early on to take the idea that I had into building a real product, which is Aergo PS, which is this automated posture seating system where we use a pressure sensitive air cells. Basically what it does is if you start to slump, the air cells corresponding to your direction of slumping will push you back. So it's always continuously hugging you into a correct, healthy posture, no matter which direction you move into. It's super lightweight, and that's our latest prototype. It's super lightweight. You can carry on the hand luggage, which is something that we really care about because we want people with disability to be able to go on holidays without being held back by equipment. It's data-driven, so we've got this app which maps out how you're sitting and then corrects your posture in real time. It's also crash tested, so it's one of the, it's a very interesting thing. A requirement for wheelchairs is that you have to pass this test in order for it to be safe to be used in cars. And so we've done a lot of engineering to make this happen. And yeah, it was really fun, to be fair, to work with other engineers who are more experienced. And then we've also done clinical case studies to really understand how the product, how our invention really has impact on our users. So all these are basically steps in the journey that was really fun as part of the research and development of Aergo. And then coming back to the business, is that it's important to build a network which supports your idea vision. So for example, when I won the Women Innovation Award 2 years ago, the network that I built from that really helped to shape my business as I go further as a female leader. And that helped me to build a great team who's very multidisciplinary and taking the idea from a sketch on paper to something that is going to be sold in the market this year. We're also very grateful for advisors. So like you guys might have teachers who give you a lot of great advices. I still have teachers who teach me every day. So these are my teachers who are much more experienced in their fields and teaching me about new things that I've actually never thought about. So you never stop learning, really. We're starting to ship our products this year first to our distribution partners and then soon to the end users. And I just want to give a little taster of what Aergo interacts with the user here. A very short video.
With Duchenne muscular dystrophy. This means I need a wheelchair to help me move around. I have my secret innovative gadgets that allow me to not only go everywhere, but also comfortably. Thank you, Aergo, supporting me wherever I go.
So you can watch the full video on YouTube. Not trying to be an ad, but we did this video with the Science Museum because we wanted to basically raise awareness about muscular dystrophy, and then support our end users. And this video basically captures how Aergo as a product supports that journey of Joshua navigating to the Science Museum. So final words, I always say this, not to be cheesy, but do follow your passion, because I feel like you never know what challenges will come in your way next, but it's the passion that helps you to persevere, and then it'll give you that care and drive to want to like, I'm happy to take on this challenge. I'm happy to break this barrier and then go forward. And that's why I said the passion will fuel your growth. So whatever career path you choose, you don't always have to build business or be a female leader. I think it was just an organic pathway that I take. But, you know, if you have passion for something you care about, just go with it. And that would be my advice about pursuing career engineering. So yeah, finally, that's it. This is Aergo. Feel free to get in touch with us. You don't always just have to get in touch about the product. I read all the emails, so you can just ping me about if you want to discuss anything in detail. Happy to set up a virtual coffee, or maybe how do you call hot chocolate instead. Don't drink too much coffee. Great. I'll share it.
Okay, can you maybe just stop sharing? And I can get back to the screen. Great.
Oops, just press on the wrong button. Sorry about that.
That's fine, that's good. Right, so if anybody has any questions, please do pop them in the chat box. But I think what was really great about that was you're both solving very big problems with social kind of aspects to it, using what looks like fairly cutting edge technology. But the fact that when you were talking about it, you can see the passion. You can hear the passion as you're speaking, and that is really, really inspiring. So while we're waiting for some questions to come through, I think it's always helpful, because there's a lot of things that you were talking about there that might not be completely clear to young people. But what takes place on a day-to-day basis? What do your days look like? Maybe start with you, Catriona, and then we'll go to some questions.
So my job currently is a head of operations. What that means on a daily basis is I oversee our pilot project that's going on. So we're building our first large-scale desalination plant at the moment in Dubai, and we have a technical team of about 10-12 people working on that in the company. And so my job is to coordinate what the engineers on my team are working on and making sure that everything is coming together at the right time and we're working on the right stuff when. So if I give a more specific example of that, so the original, so about 12 months ago when we were designing the plant, there were questions around the actual desalination vessel itself. What material should it be made of? What diameter should the pipes be? And how thick should those pipes be? And what does that mean? How much steam then can we create for that surface area? And then once we had that kind of desalination vessel designed, then we would design the solar side of it. So how many solar panels do you need to power, how much electricity and heat energy do you need from the solar array to power the desalination vessel? So those are the kind of engineering questions that we've been tackling, and there's lots and lots of those. And so my job is to make sure that people are working on the right questions. If they've got questions come up that they get stuck with, making sure either I can answer them or someone directing them to someone who can answer them. And that's what my job looks like on a day-to-day.
Okay, so lots of problem solving then, and being very organised are probably good characteristics. Okay, and what about you, Sheana?
Actually, not so different from Catriona. Morning is always about setting the tone for the day. So like we have this thing called morning stand-up where we talk about our focuses and share like whether we need each other to support each other on certain aspect of either it's R&D or marketing strategy. And then I always have my meetings in the mornings because I prefer that. And then afternoon, I'll spend a lot of time back into product. Right now, we're focusing on production setup. So it's like reviewing engineering drawings and then like going back and forth with our manufacturing partner, discussing supply chains. And then I'll get a bit more hands-on in terms of testing new features created by the product team on the device. So I'm sitting on the Aergo prototype at the moment as well. And then I have another prototype there, so we can like basically continuously trial new features on the go before we take it to a user. So it's great fun. Yeah, I try to design my days to have things that I love doing, and then not just like cramp like a day just like feel purely on working on business admin works, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. So we have a question. How do you stay motivated even when you're faced with extreme challenges in your work?
I'll jump in quickly. I have a feeling that Sheena already answered that question a little bit with the last slide of her presentation. For me, is the same. When stuff gets really hard and you're stuck, there's bits of every job. Even if you have a job that you love, there's still bits of it that can be why there's always admin to do. There's paperwork. It can be boring, and it's not what you like to do. But if you are working towards something that you really believe in and that you're really passionate about, then that can help. For me, knowing that the end goal is that we will have a really sustainable a product that does no harm to the environment, when other desalination technologies can be really harmful for the environment, and knowing that we're bringing a product to market that can help, that's keeps me going.
Totally, I agree. It's going back to the passion piece. I guess if we talk about little things you can do to bring back your passion, it's just remove yourself from the situation very quickly when you feel like, oh my god, I cannot deal with this challenge because it's so hard. It's okay to step away for a bit and then talk to people you feel most comfortable with. Like my advisor, for example, is on WhatsApp. So I'll just like text her and be like, this is what I've gone through, and then we'll have a call and it's all good. I think is once you hear that, people you think are really successful actually still go through the same emotional feelings you have, and you're able to hear that from them, you'll feel less intimidated by the challenge you're thrown at, and then you'll build up that courage again to like get past that barrier. And then again, back to Catriona saying, is that because you're so passionate about the end goal, then you'll get back on track again. So it's just, yeah, you'll it's okay to like relax, sit back and relax, and don't worry too much.
And I feel like that's good advice, not just for your daily work, but also in life, if it's your subject choice or whatever that's causing problems. We've got a couple of product specific questions. We've got, did you build the chair, and could Aergo help people who work in offices as well?
Yes, so yes, definitely. So first, did I build a chair? Yes, but I'll tell you that my first prototype, I had to hack a fish tank and a blood pressure monitor, and then like solder them really like ruggedy into a very simple prototype just to test. And then I had to hire an engineer to like do it properly, because they're more electronically trained. So yeah, I did build the first prototype, but right now I've had more specialized engineers. So rest assured, it's a very robust device. And in terms of putting onto office seating, yes, actually last year, this is not launched yet. This is still, we're still testing it, but we've developed a sit cushion for office worker, because our technology is all about correcting posture, and it's not just for children with disability, it's actually anyone who sits for over 8 hours a day. So yeah, we'll hopefully launch that this year, but we do have a lot of technology in the pipeline that we want to get it out there. So yeah, I guess watch out for Aergo.
I think there'll be a lot of people who could benefit from that if my work circles. Yeah. So this one's for you, Catriona. Can you explain what an internship is?
Yes, of course. So an internship is something we offer to people, which is essentially a short-term placement or work placement at a company. So typically these are offered to students who are at university in the summers. That's usually where we offer internships too. Which is why I took an internship in my mid-20s. It was a little surprising. So maybe I could talk about what we do at Desolenator. So usually we take summer interns, usually engineering students, and they come and work for us for 2 or 3 months over their summer break between university terms, and they help out with some engineering tasks.
And actually, Founders for Schools does help provide internships as well if you're between 18 and 25. So if you're interested, just check out our website after this. Okay, another question. Were there any problems you faced that sometimes made you want to give up?
Yes. Yes, certainly. I think, especially if I can just talk about Sheena's presentation, that it's not nearly as easy as it looks. Bringing a product is really hard, and regularly you'll come across a challenge that you think, wow, we're just never going to solve this. It's never going to happen. And then most of the time you just you work on the problem hard enough, and and you find the solution. Maybe Sheena, I don't know if you have an example. I'll try and think of something specific.
Like we had, because we are designing in such a specific market, and it's not something that most investors actually understand or had experience in, and that poses a risk for them. And so I remember years ago, there was a time where we were struggling to raise funding for Aergo. I think that was it's not that necessarily about wanting to give up at that stage, but it was so hard. And the hardness is not from rejection, like definitely not. It's more just looking at my team and thinking, oh my God, I'm responsible for these people who are so passionate about their jobs, and then now how can I make sure they continue to be able to do what they love, because that's my responsibility as the business owner. And then thankfully, I basically worked really hard, and then got over that barrier, and the team was fully supported. It's also important, we're always very transparent, and then I think it was their support, actually their reassurance about what they believe in with the company's mission, that got me through that hardship, I'd say. And I think that was the most difficult time, because I think I just saw another question where it was about, any time where you feel really difficult. I think I still remember having a hard conversation with the team about we have limited funding left. This is our runway, but this is what we've achieved, and these are the potential leads we have. Where are we going next? And I guess the communication was, I prepared a lot for that, and they were very comfortable with the idea that it's not the end of the journey. It's just a little blip, and we'll work through it together, and that really helped.
Okay, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to finish it there. That was really inspiring, and I hope it gives some people some idea of some of the things that come up in that type of job. There was a really nice spread between the science and technology part, but also the business side of what it can mean to start up a company in this sort of sector. So thank you very much for that. That was fantastic.